It was the first day of hunting season. Jake Miller woke up before the sun. He pulled on his boots, grabbed his rifle, and stepped outside into the cold Montana morning. The air smelled like pine trees and frost. Birds were singing softly in the dark. Everything felt normal. Everything felt right. Jake was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He was just a man who loved the forest. He had been hunting in these mountains every year since he was 12 years old. His father had taught him, and his grandfather had taught his father. It was a family tradition. It was a way of life. His two friends Dave and Marcus were already waiting by the truck. Dave was pouring coffee from a thermos. Marcus was checking his rifle for the third time. They were laughing about something. Jake could not hear what, but he smiled anyway. "Ready?" Dave asked. "Always," Jake said. They drove up the mountain road as the sun slowly came up. The trees were orange and red. The sky was pink and gold. It was a beautiful morning, the kind of morning that makes a man feel lucky to be alive. They parked at the edge of the forest and walked in. Their boots crunched on the dry leaves. Nobody spoke. They did not need to. Three men who had hunted together for 20 years did not need words. Then something strange happened. The birds stopped singing. Jake noticed it first. He held up his hand and the others stopped walking. They stood still and listened. Nothing. Just silence. No wind, no birds, no sounds at all. The whole forest had gone quiet. "That is strange," Marcus whispered. Jake looked up through the trees. The sky was getting darker, not because of clouds. The sky was turning gray in a way that did not look natural. Something was blocking the light. Then his radio made a sound, a strange buzzing noise. He picked it up. Static, just noise. He tried again. Nothing. He looked at Dave. Dave tried his phone. No signal. "My phone is dead," Dave said. "Mine too," Marcus said. Jake looked up again. The dark patch in the sky was growing bigger, and it was not moving like a cloud. It was moving like something alive. Something that had a direction. Something that had a purpose. Then came the sound. It started low, like a deep hum, like something vibrating far away, but it grew louder and louder, until Jake could feel it in his chest, in his bones. The ground under his boots started to shake. "What is that?" Dave asked. His voice was nervous now. The laughing was gone. Then the trees started to move, not from wind, from the vibration. Leaves fell from the branches like rain. A deer ran past them at full speed, then another, then a whole group of them, running in panic, running away from something. Jake had never seen deer run like that. In 20 years of hunting, he had never seen animals that scared. He raised his eyes to the sky one more time, and he saw it. It was massive, bigger than anything Jake had ever seen, bigger than a mountain. It was dark gray and shaped like something with no name, covered in surfaces that looked almost like scales. Windows, or maybe weapons, he could not tell. It just floated there above the forest, silent now, like it was watching. "That is not a plane," Marcus said. Nobody answered, because there was nothing to say. Then a beam of light came down from the bottom of the ship. It hit the small town at the base of the mountain 3 miles away, the town where Jake had grown up, where his mother still lived, where his kids went to school. The light was blue and white, and it lasted only 3 seconds. When it stopped, the town was gone. Not on fire, not destroyed, just gone, like it had never been there, like someone had erased it. Jake stood completely still. He felt cold in a way that had nothing to do with the morning air. He could hear Dave making a sound beside him, a broken, helpless sound. Marcus was not saying anything at all. Then more beams came down, from different parts of the ship, hitting different places across the valley, each one lasting just a few seconds, each one leaving nothing behind. Jake watched with eyes that could not look away. This was not a disaster, this was not an accident, this was a plan. Somebody had done this, somebody had aimed. Then, from the edge of the tree line below them, something moved. They were tall, very tall, at least 8 feet. They wore armor that was dark and smooth. Their heads were large, their eyes were yellow, and they glowed in the shadow of the trees. They moved slowly, calmly, like they had done this before, like they had done this 100 times on 100 different worlds. They were carrying weapons long and thin, pointed at the ground for now. There were 4 of them, then 8, then more coming through the trees. Jake counted 12 before he stopped counting. One of them stopped and looked in Jake's direction. Its yellow eyes moved across the tree line slowly, searching. Then they stopped. They stopped on Jake. It had found him. Jake did not move. He did not breathe. He just stood there with his rifle in his hands and looked back at the alien that was looking at him. Then the alien did something unexpected. It made a sound, low and clicking, like a language, and the others turned and looked in Jake's direction too. Then one of them raised its weapon, not to fire, not yet. It was pointing, showing the others. Jake understood then. In that cold, quiet moment, he understood what was happening. They were not soldiers clearing a planet. They were not invaders taking land. They were hunters. And they had just found their prey. Jake looked down at the rifle in his hands. Then he looked back up at the alien standing at the edge of the trees. His jaw tightened. His eyes went cold. If they wanted a hunt, they had come to the right place. He had been doing this his whole life. Jake did not sleep that night. He sat behind a fallen tree on the side of the mountain, his rifle across his knees, his eyes on the valley below. The fires were still burning down there, small orange lights in the dark. What was left of the towns? What was left of the homes? Dave sat beside him quiet. Marcus was a few feet away, watching the other direction. Nobody spoke for a long time. Then Dave said, "What do we do?" Jake did not answer right away. He was thinking, not panicking, not crying, just thinking. That was the thing about Jake. He did not waste time on feelings when there was a problem to solve. Feelings could come later. Right now there was a problem. "We find other people," Jake said. "We don't fight alone." They moved through the forest in the dark, slowly, carefully. The aliens had equipment. Jake had seen it. Lights, scanners, things he could not name. So he kept the group under the thick trees where the canopy was heavy. No open ground, no skylines. Move like a deer, move like you know you are being watched. Because they were. After 2 hours of walking, they heard voices. Jake stopped the group with one hand. He listened. Human voices, English. He moved toward the sound carefully and came out into a small clearing where 11 people were gathered around a tiny fire. Hunters, farmers, a forest ranger named Cole, an old veteran named Bill who was 70 years old and still had his army rifle from 40 years ago. They all looked up when Jake appeared. "You made it," Cole said. "So far." Jake said. They sat together and shared what they knew. The aliens had hit 17 towns in the valley in the first hour. The military had tried to respond, but something was blocking their communications. Jets had scrambled, but 2 had come down already. Not shot down, just stopped working. Like something had turned them off from above. Bill, the old veteran, spoke slowly. "They're jamming everything, radios, phones, GPS planes. They did this first before they started attacking. That's not random, that's strategy." Jake nodded. "They've done this before." Everyone was quiet after that. Then a young man named Ryan, maybe 19 years old, spoke up. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "So what do? We can't call for help. We can't run. They're everywhere." Jake looked at him. "We know this forest. They don't." He stood up and walked to the edge of the clearing. He looked out at the dark trees, the steep hills, the dry creek beds, the narrow paths that only a local would know. He had walked every inch of this land for 20 years. He knew where the ground was soft. He knew where the fog sat low in the mornings. He knew which trails turned to dead ends and which ones opened up. The aliens were powerful. That was true. But they were also new here. "We don't fight them like soldiers," Jake said. "We fight them like hunters." He turned back to the group. "We use the land. We set traps. We hit and move. We never stay in one place. We make them chase us into ground we choose." Bill smiled for the first time, a slow, knowing smile. "Ambush tactics." "Exactly," Jake said. "They worked through the night. Cole knew where the ranger station kept emergency supplies, rope, flares, fuel canisters, basic tools. Ryan turned out to be good with his hands. He could build a tripwire in the dark without making a sound. Two of the farmers had brought hunting knives and knew how to use them. They were not an army, but they were something. By early morning, they had their first trap ready. Jake had chosen the spot carefully, a narrow path between two rocky hills. The aliens had been using this trail to move through the forest. Jake had watched them the night before. They moved in groups of 4, always the same spacing, always the same direction. Confident like nothing here could hurt them, that confidence was going to cost them. The trap was simple. A wire across the path connected to 3 fuel canisters in the trees above. When the wire was hit, the canisters would fall and break open. Ryan would be waiting with a flare 20 meters back. They waited. An hour passed. Nothing. 2 hours. Still nothing. Jake did not move. He did not shift his weight or check his watch. He just waited. The way a hunter waits, with patience that has no end. Then they came. 4 aliens moving up the path, slow and steady, their yellow eyes scanning the trees, their weapons ready. They moved like they owned this forest. They did not own this forest. The first alien hit the wire. The canisters crashed down. Fuel splashed across the path and across 2 of the aliens. Ryan fired the flare. The forest lit up. 2 aliens went down in the fire. Screaming sounds that Jake had never heard before. High and sharp, almost like metal tearing. The other 2 jumped back, confused, looking around for the enemy. But Jake's group was already gone, melting back into the trees like shadows. They moved fast, putting distance between themselves and the burning path, not running, moving, controlled and quiet. When they stopped half a mile away, Ryan was breathing hard, his eyes were wide. "That worked," he said, like he could not believe it. "Of course it worked," Bill said. But Jake was not celebrating. He was watching the sky through the trees. He had seen something in those few seconds when the fire lit up, something that changed everything. One of the burning aliens had dropped its weapon, and it was still there on the path. Jake looked at Marcus. Marcus looked back at him. They both knew what the other was thinking. "We need that weapon," Jake said. Dave shook his head. "They'll come back for it. The whole area will be crawling with them in 10 minutes. "I know," Jake said. He was already moving back toward the path. Dave grabbed his arm. "Jake, that is crazy." Jake stopped. He looked at Dave, then at the group. These people who had followed him through the dark, who had trusted him. "They have weapons that can erase a town in 3 seconds, Jake said quietly. "We have hunting rifles and rope. If we want to survive this, we need to learn what they've got. And right now there is one lying on the ground half a mile from here." Nobody argued, because Jake was right. He handed Marcus his rifle, rolled his shoulders, and walked back into the dark alone. The forest was silent again, but somewhere above the trees, something had changed in the alien commander's ship. The screen showed the burning path, the 2 fallen soldiers, the missing weapon. The commander stared at it for a long time. No species had ever done that before. Not on any world they had visited. The prey did not set traps, the prey did not take weapons, the prey did not come back. It made a low sound, something between confusion and something else. Something that, on its home world, would be called respect. Jake came back with the weapon. He was bleeding from a cut on his arm. His jacket was torn, his boots were covered in ash, but he was walking, and in his hands was the alien weapon, long and thin and heavier than it looked, warm to the touch, like it was alive. The group stared at it. Nobody moved to touch it, nobody spoke. They just looked at the thing in Jake's hands like it was a snake that might still bite. Jake set it down carefully on a flat rock. He looked at the cut on his arm, pressed his sleeve against it, and said, "There were 3 of them when I got back. I had to go around. Took longer than I wanted." "You went around 3 aliens in the dark," Dave said slowly. "I went around 3 aliens in my forest," Jake said. "Different thing." Ryan crouched down and looked at the weapon without touching it. He was studying it the way a smart young man studies something he wants to understand. His eyes moved across every surface, every line, every place where 2 parts met. "I can figure this out," he said. "You have 1 hour," Jake told him. While Ryan worked, Jake pulled Bill aside. The old veteran, the one who understood strategy, Jake needed a mind that had seen war before, even if that war had been between humans. "They're going to change after last night," Jake said quietly. "They lost 2 soldiers and a weapon. They won't be careless again." Bill nodded slowly. "They'll come in bigger groups. They'll cover more ground. They'll be angry." "Angry makes you make mistakes," Jake said. Bill looked at him. "You're thinking ahead." "I'm thinking like a hunter," Jake said. "And so are they, that's the problem. They hunt too. They're just not used to the prey hunting back." Bill was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that Jake did not expect. "I got a message last night, before the jammers hit this area again. From my nephew, he's in the army. He said it's not just here. It's everywhere. The whole country. Maybe the whole world." Jake felt the ground shift under him. Not literally, just in his mind. He had been thinking about the valley, about his forest, about his small group of survivors. He had not let himself think bigger than that because bigger felt impossible. But now he had to. "How many people are fighting back?" Jake asked. He didn't know, Bill said. But he said the same thing is happening in other places. People in the countryside, hunters, farmers, people who know the land. They're not running, they're fighting. Jake looked up at the sky through the trees. The alien ship was still up there. He could feel it more than see it. A heaviness in the air, a darkness at the edge of the clouds. But something shifted in his chest. Something small but real. They were not alone. Ryan called out from the rock. "I think I've got it." Everyone gathered around. Ryan had spent the hour studying every inch of the alien weapon. He had found what looked like a trigger, a pressure point on the side that fit naturally under the thumb. Like the aliens had 4 fingers and a thumb too. Not so different after all. "I don't know what it does exactly," Ryan said. "But I think I know how to make it do it." "We'll test it," Jake said. He pointed into the dark forest away from camp. "Aim at that dead tree over there." Ryan picked up the weapon carefully, both hands, like he was holding something that deserved respect. He pointed it at the dead tree 40 meters away and pressed the pressure point. A beam of blue light cut through the dark. The tree was gone, not knocked down, not broken, gone. Like the towns in the valley, like it had never existed. Nobody spoke for 5 full seconds. Then Marcus said very quietly, "Oh." Jake looked at the empty space where the tree had been. He thought about the towns in the valley, about his mother's house, about the school where his kids learned to read, and he felt something cold and hard settle in his stomach, not fear. Something past fear. Something that had no name but felt like the moment before a storm breaks. He turned to the group, all of them looking at him, waiting. "Ryan, you're now our weapons specialist," Jake said. "Nobody touches that thing except you. You learn everything about it, how long it lasts, how many shots, how to aim it properly. Everything." Ryan nodded, his hands still shaking slightly but his eyes steady. Then Jake's radio made a sound, a burst of static, then a voice, broken and cutting in and out, but human, definitely human. "Anyone on this frequency? This is Colonel Harris, United States Army. We have a mobile unit operating 15 miles east of the Montana Valley. If anyone can hear this, we are coordinating resistance. Repeat, we are coordinating." Then static again. Jake grabbed the radio. "Colonel Harris, this is Jake Miller, Civilian Group, 9 survivors, Montana Forest. We are armed and operational. We took down 2 alien soldiers last night and recovered a weapon. Repeat, we have an alien weapon. Static, long static. Then, say again, you recovered an alien weapon." "Confirmed," Jake said. A longer pause. Then Colonel Harris came back, his voice different now, sharper, more awake. "Miller, do not move from your position. We are coming to you." Jake lowered the radio and looked at Bill. Bill was smiling again, that slow, knowing smile. The army arrived 4 hours later. Not in trucks. Trucks made noise. They came on foot through the forest. 40 soldiers moving like ghosts. Colonel Harris was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many difficult things. She looked at Jake's group, at their hunting rifles and hand-built traps and one alien weapon, and she did not laugh. She nodded. "You've been busy," she said. "We've been hunting," Jake said. She looked at the alien weapon in Ryan's hands, then she looked at Jake. "My scientists have been trying to get their hands on one of those for 3 days. Every time we get close, they pull back." "We set a trap," Jake said simply. Harris studied him. "You're not military." "No. But you know how to fight in this terrain." "I know how to hunt in it," Jake said. "Same thing right now." Harris was quiet for a moment, looking at the trees, looking at her soldiers, looking at this small group of farmers and hunters who had done what trained soldiers had not managed. Then she made a decision. "I'm giving you a field commission," she said. "You work with us. You teach my people what you know about this forest. We give you equipment and backup." Jake thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. "One condition," he said. Harris raised an eyebrow. "We fight it my way," Jake said. "No open ground, no noise, no straight lines. We use the land, we move like hunters, not like soldiers." Harris looked at him for a long moment. Then she held out her hand. Jake shook it. Around them the forest was quiet, but not empty. Jake could feel it. Other groups out there in other forests, other hunters, other farmers, other ordinary people who had decided that running was not an option. From the mountains of Montana to the jungles of Brazil, from the hills of Scotland to the forests of Russia. Every piece of wild land on Earth was waking up. The aliens had come to hunt humanity. They did not know that humanity had been hunting since the very beginning, since the first human picked up a rock and decided the world would not beat him. Above the trees, the alien commander watched the screens in silence. More data was coming in now, from every continent, the same pattern repeating. Small groups, moving fast, hitting hard, disappearing, then hitting again somewhere else. The commander had hunted on 40 worlds. Never once had the prey organized. It made a decision. It pressed a single button on its command panel. A signal that traveled across space at speeds that made light look slow. A signal that went all the way to the alien homeworld. The message was short. It said only, "Send more ships." The new ships arrived at dawn. Not 1. Not 5. 17 new ships came through the clouds like dark mountains falling from the sky, each one bigger than the last, each one casting a shadow over a different part of the world. The ground shook when they passed overhead. Windows broke. Birds fell silent on every continent. The alien commander watched from its ship with something close to satisfaction. Now it would end. But Jake was already awake. He had not slept again. He never slept much anymore. Sleep felt like something from a different life, a life that existed before the first day of hunting season. He was standing at the edge of the forest with Colonel Harris when the new ships appeared in the sky. Harris counted them quietly, her jaw tight, her eyes hard. 17, she said. "I saw," Jake said. "This changes things." "It changes the size," Jake said, "not the strategy." Harris looked at him. She had known Jake for 3 days now, 3 days that felt like 3 years. In that time, she had watched him think in a way she had never seen before. Not fast, not loud, just deep, like a man who understood that the right answer was worth waiting for. "Talk to me," she said. Jake turned away from the sky and looked at the ground. He picked up a stick and drew in the dirt. A rough map of the valley, the mountains, the forest, the river that ran through the middle. "They keep coming down to us," he said. "Every attack, every patrol. They come down from the ships and they move through the land and then they go back up. They need to come down because their weapons only work at close range on targets in cover. They can erase open ground from the air, but they can't reach us under the trees without sending soldiers in." Harris nodded slowly, following his thinking. "So the ships are not the problem," Jake said. "The soldiers are the problem, and if we stop being something they can chase, if we become something they have to run from, everything changes." "You want to take the fight to them," Harris said. "I want to take the fight inside them," Jake said. Silence. Harris stared at the dirt map, then at Jake. You're talking about getting inside one of those ships. Ryan has spent 4 days with that alien weapon, Jake said. He understands it now. He also found something else. A frequency the weapon puts out when it fires. A signature, like a key. He thinks that same frequency might open the docking doors on the ships. They're designed so soldiers can come back in quickly during a fight. No waiting, just the right signal and the door opens. You tested this? Last night, Jake said. There's a smaller scout ship that landed 2 miles east to refuel or recharge or whatever they do. Ryan pointed the weapon at the side door from 300 meters away and pressed a secondary switch he found. The door opened. Harris was very still now. We got the door open, Jake said. We didn't go in, not without a plan, but we know it works. Harris looked at her soldiers, 40 trained fighters who had followed her through 3 days of running and hiding and losing people they knew. Then she looked at Jake's group, hunters and farmers and one 19-year-old who had taught himself alien technology in 4 days because someone needed to. What do you need, she said, Jake told her. They moved at night. 20 people total. Harris picked her 12 best soldiers. Jake brought Ryan, Marcus, Dave, and Bill. Bill had refused to stay behind with a look that ended the conversation before it started. They moved through the forest for 6 hours without lights, without radios, without a single sound that did not need to happen. Jake led them the way he led a hunting party, slow and deliberate, every footstep chosen, every pause meaningful. At 3 a.m, they reached the main ship. It was even bigger up close. It sat in the valley like a fallen city, dark and massive and humming with something that was not quite sound, more like a feeling in the back of the teeth. Lights moved along its surface in slow patterns. Alien soldiers patrolled the ground beneath it in groups of 6. Jake watched the patrol patterns for 40 minutes without moving. Then he turned to the group and used only hand signals, the language of hunters, the language of people who understand that silence is a weapon. They moved in 3 teams. Harris took her soldiers around the left side to create a distraction, noise and light, something to pull the patrols away from the entry point. Marcus and Dave would cover the door from outside, and Jake would go in with Ryan and Bill. It was a simple plan. Simple plans work, complicated plans break. Harris looked at Jake one last time before they separated. She started to say something, then stopped, then just nodded. Jake nodded back. They split into the dark. The distraction worked perfectly. Harris's soldiers hit the alien patrol on the far side of the ship with everything they had. Noise and fire and chaos. The alien soldiers moved toward it fast, leaving the east side of the ship quiet. Ryan raised the alien weapon, found the right angle, pressed the secondary switch. The door opened. The 3 of them went in. Inside the ship was nothing like Jake expected. He had imagined dark corridors and flashing lights like something from a movie. Instead, it was wide and tall and almost silent. The walls were smooth and faintly glowing. The air tasted strange, thin and metallic, like breathing next to old coins. They moved fast, Ryan leading because he had studied the weapon long enough to start understanding the technology behind it. He seemed to feel which direction was right the way Jake felt, which direction was north in the forest. Some knowledge goes past thinking and becomes instinct. They found the communication center in 4 minutes, a large circular room filled with screens and controls and alien language that none of them could read. But Ryan did not need to read it. He had brought something with him, a small device that Harris's tech team had put together in 2 days using parts from the alien weapon and parts from a broken radio transmitter. A signal device. One signal, broadcast on every frequency, to every ship, to every receiver in range, including the ones that could reach across space. The message was not in words. Words needed translation. Instead, it was something simpler, something that needed no translation at all. It was a recording. 3 days of recordings from Jake's group, from Harris's soldiers, from resistance fighters on 6 other continents. Every trap, every ambush, every recovered weapon, every alien soldier taken down, every moment where the prey had turned around and become the predator. And underneath all of it, one clear signal. A mathematical pattern that any intelligent species would understand. We are still here. We are everywhere. We are not stopping. Ryan pressed the button. The signal went out. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every screen in the room changed. The alien writing disappeared. and was replaced by something else. Incoming signals. From the other ships, from the home world, from places Jake could not imagine. The alien commander appeared in the doorway. It was alone. It had come to the communication center because of the signal. It had not expected to find 3 humans standing at its controls. It was very tall. Taller than Jake remembered from the forest. Its yellow eyes moved from Jake to Ryan to Bill and back to Jake. In its hand was a weapon raised and ready. Jake raised his rifle. They stood like that for a long moment. The alien and the hunter at the center of a ship above the world they were both fighting over. Then the alien did something strange. It lowered its weapon. Slowly. Deliberately. Not because it was afraid, but because it was thinking. It made a sound, low and clicking, and then from a small device on its arm, a translation, rough and broken but clear enough. "You came inside," it said. "Prey does not come inside." "We are not prey," Jake said. The alien looked at him, its yellow eyes unreadable. "What are you?" it said. Jake thought about the question. He thought about his grandfather teaching his father to hunt. His father teaching him. 20 years of walking the same forest, learning every inch of it, learning patience, learning stillness, learning that the most dangerous thing in any environment is the thing that knows it best. He thought about Ryan learning alien technology in 4 days. About Bill at 70 years old walking 6 hours through the dark without complaint. About Harris shaking his hand and trusting a plan from a man she had known for 3 days. About Dave and Marcus standing at that door right now making sure nobody came through it. He thought about every human who had ever stood in a dark place and decided not to run. "We are humans," Jake said quietly, "and this is our world." The alien was still for a long moment. Then the screens changed again. All of them, all at once. The incoming signals shifted. The 17 new ships that had arrived at dawn. Their signals were changing, moving, pulling back. They were leaving. Not all of them. Not forever, Jake knew that. This was not an ending. This was one moment in something that would go on for a long time. But it was a real moment. A moment that meant something. The alien commander looked at Jake one final time. Then it turned and walked out of the room without looking back. Jake stood at the center of the ship and listened to the sound of the engines changing above him. The ship was moving, slowly at first, then faster, rising. Ryan looked at Jake, his eyes bright. "Did we just win?" Jake watched the screens, the ships pulling back through the clouds, the signals fading. "We won today," Jake said. "Tomorrow we get ready for the next one." Bill put a hand on Jake's shoulder, said nothing, which was the right thing to say. They walked back to the door, back out into the cold morning air, back to the forest that Jake had walked his whole life. The sky above was blue and clear. For the first time in days, the sun came all the way through, all the way. Jake looked up at it just for a second. Then he picked up his rifle, checked it the way his father had taught him, and turned back toward the trees. There was still work to do. There was always still work to do.